This is the Inner Chief Podcast, episode 346.
We have people here who are extremely good at their job, but have been doing the same job for a long time, and they have no career aspiration to work up the rank at all. And they're brilliant and they're rock stars and we love them, and we have people that come in and very quickly have career progression, and we can see that they are going to absolutely, be a superstar and have a much more senior role in a short amount of time. Neither one of those is a better. You have to respect both of them. Don't just focus on your superstars. Do respect your rock stars.
G'day, this is the Inner Chief Podcast, episode 346, and our CEO Masterclass today is with Carolyn Creswell, founder and MD of Carmen's Kitchen, on how to fire people, doing what you love, understanding menopause, and having a genuine work-life balance. I am your host, Greg Layton, founder of Chiefmaker and the Council of Chiefs, and I believe there is a great chief in all of us, and that through listening to the stories, strategies and techniques of great CEOs, each of you can find and leave your own legacy through your work. The Inner Chief Podcast is where you will learn how to think and make moves like a CEO. For over a decade, I've helped CEOs and senior executives around the world boldly lead change, inspire their people, and leave a legacy. So every 2 weeks, I'll bring a deep diving interview with one of these CEOs or another one of a mid to large organisation so you can find your own path to greatness as an executive. In this episode, I chat to Carolyn Creswell. In 1992, as an 18-year-old university student, Carolyn founded Carmen's when she bought the small muesli business she was working at for $1,000. More than 30 years later, Carmen's Kitchen is now Australia's favourite muesli brand, alongside being a market leader in deliciously good-for-you snacks. Carolyn's determination and focus on producing quality products using whole foods has seen Carmen's grow internationally, exporting to more than 30 countries. Carolyn won the 2007 Ernst & Young's Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award and was named the 2012 Telstra Australian Businesswoman of the Year. She is also a graduate member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. In today's masterclass, Carolyn will share her philosophy on continuous improvement and evolution as a business leader. How to hire and fire people, that is, the mindset, the process, and the skill to follow. Why menopause in the workplace is becoming a critical issue, and how she is navigating this for her own well-being and those in her organisation. Chiefs, please welcome the wonderful Carolyn Creswell. Righto, Chief. So I'm here with Carolyn Creswell, the CEO and founder of Carmen's. Carolyn, what an absolute pleasure to have you on the Inner Chief.
Thank you, Greg. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Hey, look, we have a great tradition at the Inner Chief. We'd love to know where our CEOs come from. Can you tell a little bit of a story that sums up your childhood and early life?
Sure. And I do think it's actually really interesting, because I think where you come from can often explain who you are later. So for me, I was a little girl born in Melbourne, of which when I was 6 years old, my dad got a transfer with his job to Los Angeles. And so within 3 months, we quickly moved over there, and I spent 4 years. And they were 4 kind of formative years, because it was predominantly my junior school years. Growing up in LA and being a fish out of water and having, speaking with a different accent and wearing the wrong clothes. And then just as quickly as that happened, when I was 12, I got moved back to Melbourne. And once again, by this point, I wore the wrong clothes. I spoke with the American accent and was once again a fish out of water. And so I think adapting and being able to change to different circumstances was something that I learned at an early age.
Yeah, well, that is a couple of big changes. Yeah. And what was your first ever job?
Well, selling lemonade on the front lawn. That was early. That was when I was 7. Right. And then, lots of little different things, but really, progressing to the day that I could sit the exam to exam wasn't, well, it actually was an exam to become a checkout chick for Coles. I literally sat it on the first day and got a job being a checkout chick.
Oh, nice. We've had a lot of Check out Chick's program so far. And what was your first ever car?
Oh, it was the biggest lemon ever. It was a Chimera, silver Chimera, and it had this terrible habit of just stopping. So you'd be on the freeway and all of a sudden it would just stop. And so not you'd sort of slow down and get into the emergency lane. And my parents didn't believe me how bad it was. And I used to just pray sometimes of like, oh my gosh, can it just get somewhere? And yeah, it was an absolute lemon, which I think for anyone who knows Chimeras, they have a reputation for.
Said Chimera, I wasn't surprised when you said it, but just stopping. Now look, you've been running Carmen's now for 30 years, and this is a roller coaster for all businesses. Moments of doubt, victories, probably some defeats, exhaustion, excitement, and an enormous amount of just bloody hard work. When you think back about the journey for Carmen's, what do you think? And here's the context: like there are 90% of businesses fail, right? But then there's some that go to incredible levels of success, like you've had. What is the difference that makes the difference, or that made the difference probably in maybe the earlier years, between why you succeeded and why others failed?
To be honest, I think one of the biggest things and firstly, I sort of struggle this word failure, right? So you should be giving things a go. I laugh. I entered the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year 16 times before I won it. If you're not giving stuff a go and getting some no's and trying hard enough, so, you should, just because you've started a business and it didn't take off, it's not a failure. That's just a life lesson and a learning. So I do think the big secret is evolution. However you worked yesterday, what have you learned from yesterday? How do you evolve tomorrow? So, you might have been pushing really hard for a certain type of client and you realise that that's not, the perfect client for you. So, for example, for me, I was often trying to get into these sort of upmarket delis, but I found that butchers were a much better client for me. I had much less competition. So evolving and saying, okay, upmarket butchers are a great opportunity. Let's go for those. And so just learning and evolving. And if you're doing that every day of your life, in your personal life and in your work life, all of a sudden, it's not sometimes the massive decisions, it's the daily decisions, it's the little changes, and that's what evolves. And, I sort of have this thing where I look at Carmen's and I think every 5 years it should look completely different. We should have just got so much better at what we do, and we should almost not recognise ourselves from 5 years ago. And I think that's, to me, that's the millions of little decisions that get acted upon.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what you're talking about there, particularly the boutique butcher kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that one thing that's going through your mind is just that listening to customers. And I wonder if there's this theme that goes, well, there's resistance here, but not here. Like you're trying to...
Yeah. Well, I think, no. I mean, the butcher example is that people who go to a butcher generally care more about good food and they spend more money. And also, when there's less competition, there's less things that they're looking at. So, there's not like when you're in an independent supermarket and there's a million different things you could be spending your money on. You're often standing there while the butcher is wrapping up your meat, and so you've sort of got time and you're looking around the shop. It's like being in a chemist. You're sort of bored and you think, what else will I buy while I'm here? I think what I've learned is to become very analytical, so to know the data. Yeah. So what's working and what's not. So you might be spending a lot of time in a certain area, or, I often, let's just say it's with marketing, and you'll say, well, hang on, I'm going to go and do that in this state. Did it work? And if you can't be really hard and fast with the numbers, that's super important. So when you look at your customer list, what customers are the ones that are actually successful? And just because there's someone you want to be successful, or it might be a prestigious customer, that doesn't mean that that's the right thing. For me, I never thought it was going to be butchers, but I was like, okay, once I worked that out and I looked at the numbers and I was like, wow, they sell twice as much as any of my other retailers, then I could sort of start actively pursuing more clients like that.
What was the most difficult moment?
Oh, look, there's been plenty. And I think probably, not having enough money to pay the bills. And that is terrible life to live. And for anyone that's ever been broke and thought, oh my gosh, or it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and the day that the big parking fine's on your window or the insurance arrives that's gone up and astronomically, that was a very, very hard period to live through. And I think I lived probably through about 5 years of it. And I'm adamant that I would never let the business, I would never put everything on the line to get us back in a situation where we couldn't afford to pay our bills.
Yeah, that's tough, right? And 5 years, like that's
long, exhausting time.
Yeah. You talk a lot about the importance of business rhythm or business operating rhythm to help stay focused. What do you mean by that, and what's the most important part of the rhythm for you?
All very important. So I'll just talk you through some of the rhythm that we have at Carmen's, and I will credit Vern Harnish, who, I learned a lot of this from. So the first thing that we do every day is we have a daily meeting called Huddle. So we do that virtually now. That used to be literally us standing around in a huddle in a circle when the business was tiny. And now everyone logs on at exactly 9:30. And this is a forum where, and virtually we just press the button to put up your hands. It goes for 5 to 10 minutes. And if there's anything important that anyone needs to tell the whole company, we're all there. So have we got a new listing? Has a product been deleted? Have we picked up a new client? Has there been a fire in one of the factories? Whatever everyone needs to know, you've got everyone's attention. So that's a sense of the pace of the business, that no one, your inbox is not drowning from a million emails. Everyone is listening, and we make sure that it's very productive. And the other thing that we always do is I'm a big one for celebrating when people have stayed here. So there's no big fanfare if someone ever resigns, but the celebration of whether it's your 1 year, your 5 year, your 10 year, your 20 year anniversary, and we'll bring that up at Huddle. So that's one of the first things, and that's just a Monday to Thursday event. We do something then called Pulse, which is about sort of the pulse of the business, if you think about your heartbeat. And so that was every month. We've just now moved it to bi-monthly. And that is where every department gets up in front of the whole company. That's what I've got at 12:30. I've got one of those today. And the whole company presents the figures, what's been happening in marketing, what's been happening in operations, and no one in the business can say they don't know everything that's going on, because they know exactly where we're up to in how their business is progressing and what's been going on. So for me personally, I have 6 direct reports. So every fortnight, I have what I call free time, which is they can come in and they can have any conversation with me, tell me what's going on, pick my brain on ideas and, what they might want to talk about with their people. And then the other fortnight, so once a month, I bring in someone external who is sort of the equivalent of sort of our board, and we go through their pack for the month. We, ask lots of questions about their numbers, have they hit them, what they said they were going to achieve, have they done it? So there's 2 very different sort of one-on-ones with me, that how I operate with my team. And then we have our celebrations. So every quarter we have what we call the Love Awards, and we allocate those to people here living the values. So you win $1,000 cash or clear into your bank account every quarter for the person that's lived the values. Everyone puts their nominations in, and there's also another $1,000 prize that's just come out this year for if you have solved any Carmen's business problem with AI, we will reward that. So we will have a look at what new things people are using AI for. That's a way of us embedding that. And then at the end of the year, we have a very big day, which is called Love What You Do Day. And it's a full celebration day of all of the success we've had in the previous 12 months. And at the end of that, we have, which is voted by everyone, sort of the employee of the year, I guess, and that person wins a $5,000 holiday voucher. and because it's voted by the people, everyone feels, a real sense of who that this was one of their picks. So there's some of the, so I was talking, I've gone from a daily rhythm to my sort of fortnightly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, and then and throughout all of this is our strategic process. So strategy is just baked into everyone's job. Everyone knows what we're trying to achieve. We have a lot of what we call initiatives. So most people, everyone's on a small, a bonus program, and part of their role will be achieving above and beyond, or achieving, working towards some projects that we want to deliver. So I think this year we had 54 projects, and those projects, we break them down into quarters and we present and see how we're progressing on those. And so that's saying, well, hang on, if we're here now and we want to be here next year, what are all the little things that we might need to do? Some of them are really little, some of them might be IT things, some of them might be customer service things, and then that sort of means that we're all just slowly plodding away on a whole lot of projects to make it a better place. So that's a long answer to a quick question, but that's the rhythm we have here.
That is outstanding. One of the best descriptions I think I've ever heard. One of the things we talk about, we've spoke a lot about operating rhythm on this program, but I think a lot of people misunderstand operating rhythm or business rhythm, because I'm listening to all the things you're achieving through that: culture, success, strategy, alignment, personal development, focusing on numbers, sharing story. I like the list, and you're doing it all through this rhythm. And without the rhythm, all that goes to chance, right? And actually probably just falls off the radar.
It does.
So I just love how you've sort of got it's almost like it joins the business together, strategically, commercially, the bonding as well is in there, like just beautiful.
And there's a lot in this about celebrating success, celebrating people, and giving the power to the people. So, we had it was last week was our Love What You Do Day, and each team gets up to celebrate and present what they've achieved for the year. And they really go to town. And, you should have seen, like, marketing, they came out in all the packaging that they'd designed that year, and they had full outfits made, like they were walking on the catwalk in Paris. It was amazing. And, there's lots of fun that gets embedded in it. The other thing that we do is we have Thursday night drinks. So each Thursday night people can stay back and have a drink, and that's a nice way. And, lots of people don't drink alcohol these days, but they're, more than welcome for whatever they want. And there's a little social aspect to that as well. And then we also have we embed our volunteering through it. So next week we've got a team that are going out at night to feed the homeless, working in the soup kitchens. Last week we were making sandwiches here for disadvantaged primary school kids. So we have quite a strong give back element as well.
Wow, that is so good. Now, Chief, are you working your tail off, doing everything you can to be the best professional, but still finding perhaps you're not getting in front and you just don't know why? You're not sure if it's a relationship with your boss that's costing you, maybe your routines or your processes, maybe you don't have the right network or the right skills, or maybe you just don't have the right track record in place. Whatever it is, sometimes it's hard to know what exactly might be costing you a promotion and mastery at work. So what I've done is created for you the Chief Maker Career Scorecard. It's a 25-question survey that gives you a free automated report about your precise situation. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do in order to get ahead and design a roadmap for your dream job and life. As I said, it's totally free. I've automated the whole process so anybody can do it in just a couple of minutes. Just go to chiefmaker.com/scorecard. What are you most proud of?
I'm very proud of the culture of Carmen's. I'm very proud that there is no dickheads here. and that you walk around and people are very passionate about what they do, and they're very driven that that they know that they, the hardest thing is if people need to leave because that we might be having to restructure or something for whatever reason, that we're having a different approach. And it's sad because they say, I just love working here. I love the culture. I feel this is my family. And I know I've worked lots of part-time jobs when I was growing up, and I know what it feels like when it doesn't really matter what you do. If you feel you're working with people who are a joy to work with, and that's how I feel, it makes going to work every day such a pleasure.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Let's shift to this thing. We're going to do a bit of a CEO masterclass on firing people and difficult conversations. In your own words, this is sort of one of your superpowers, being able to let people go at the right time. And can you explain a bit of your mindset and process for this?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the first thing is that do not beat yourself up. You can interview someone to death. You can check the references. You can have done everything in your power, and you can hire someone and they aren't the right fit for you. Whether they aren't the right fit in the way that they work, in their cultural fit, if your expectation is that you get it right 50% of the time, I think everyone needs to lower their expectations, because often managers beat themselves up that, how did I not pick that up? And I remember years ago hearing a guy that started a business in America, very famous, called Zappos. It's an online shoe business. And he would offer people money not to take the job. I think you were offered $2,000 once you got to the end of this process. And now everyone wanted to work at Zappos, because he's like, I really want you to know that, we really want to make sure that people are passionate and that we've hired the right people. And he was the one that gave me that figure of saying about 50% of the time you can get it wrong. So the challenge that I would always say is managing to, in Australian law, you have 6 months probation. Manage that very carefully. Make sure that you're having conversations. If someone you think, it will take, certainly a month, 2-3 months to get someone up to speed, but you need to really know by 6 months, would you enthusiastically rehire that person? Because if you let it go after 6 months, you are then in a situation where you are then performance managing, and you're taking up so much energy from managers and, up to your leadership team on something that should have been dealt with at the start. So don't kid yourself if you really don't think someone is the right fit and the right person. So once you've got through that probation, and you might have someone that was amazing for a long period of time, that they might have worked with you for 5-7 years and they've been great. However, the size of the business has meant that, that you actually now need someone who has a skill set. And generally speaking, in many roles, I can teach skill. In most roles, you can skill someone up. I can't change who they are innately, so I can't change how good they perhaps are able to process numbers, or perhaps how creative they are. But I can certainly send them on courses, and I can certainly give them training. But I can't change their attitude, and I can't change if they have a sense of feeling entitled. And sometimes when people have worked in a place for a long period of time, they do. And I think there's the biggest thing a leader can bring to the business is the responsibility to put the right people on the bus, have the right people sitting in the right seats, and when it's time for someone to hop off the bus, to have the bravery to really say, hey, there's a reason, that you need to hop off the bus. So that has taken me a long time in my career to learn, and I'm a nice person, and it's not and I totally understand that it's not a nice thing to do, but I have, if you can see sitting behind me, I have a beautiful piece of art, which is all books about telling the truth. And every title on that is about the truth about, any topic. And I think you should always come from a place of telling the truth.
Mm.
So I will happily sit with someone and say, I think it makes someone's life so much easier if they actually can understand. It's like if someone in life has stopped being friends with you and you think you rack your brain for years and years, what did I do? What did I do? And when you eventually find out, it might have been something minuscule. It might have been something where you go, do you know what? I mean, that happened to me once. When I found out, I was like, yeah, fair. I totally understand that, I'd stayed friends with someone that you absolutely despise. So you were like, well, I don't want to be friends with you because of that connection. But when you don't know, it's very hard. And I think it's very hard to grow in your career when people haven't given you the feedback of why something hasn't worked. So I'm a big one for trying to explain that. Obviously, it's much better if you can give people time that this is what I need you to perform. This is what I'm really looking for you doing in the role. So I have a lot of my friends that ring me, business people and say, oh my gosh, I've got to let someone go today. Can you talk me through? So generally, I will always start. I like people to have a sense, probably of 24 hours, or that there's going to be a conversation we need to have. So, would you be able to come and see me tomorrow? I think we need to talk about your career or your role here, because it is much better. It's awful if someone is caught completely off guard. Give them a sense to go home and say to their partner, oh my gosh, I think maybe tomorrow I might be losing my job, and that they can actually start, because the shock can mean that they can't hear anything when it just comes with straight shock. So giving them some notice so that they can actually be aware that this conversation might be coming their way. And then when they come in, I will often just start by saying, look, this is a really, this is not a great conversation today. And, I would love, if I was running this business, to employ every person I enjoy working with and everyone that, I've had a great time. But unfortunately, my role is to make sure that we have the right people in the right roles at the right time for the business. And unfortunately, in this situation, we've decided that we're going to be restructuring the role you are currently in. We're going to be making redundant, or whatever the situation might be. However, please separate that from the fact that I really respect you. I'm more than happy to be a reference for you. We are more than happy to give you careers counselling. So we offer outplacement service. Let us be here to help you try and get your next role. So sometimes we have that conversation very early, because often it's easier for people to get another role while they're still in a role. And we try and, and if people are mature, they're able to work through that and then be able to say, okay, I've heard you. Can you give me 3 months? I will give you my all. And my only request to them is that that they must finish strong. So if you start having lots of sick days and arriving late and leaving early and taking the piss, then this won't go to the end. But often, there might be a payment made at the end if you finish strong. But for a lot of people, they need to sort of leave on the spot, because it's something where they say, do you know what, this is not something I can't turn up every day and just pretend. And it's very much a personal thing. Some people can surprise you that they're able to finish super strong, and they really appreciate the honesty. And I'll often say, well, what you can ask me any questions. Ask me if they were underperforming or what kind of issues, because people are expensive. And you really cannot if you're carrying more people than you need to, just because you don't have the bravery to let people go, that's kind of, that's a false economy.
Thank you for sharing that. That's just, I can imagine being in that room going, this is hard news, but I'm glad I'm getting it. Because sometimes the worst thing you can do for someone is leave them in a role and just let them not be happy, not perform, get more and more stressed in that role. And then that just sort of drifts into the rest of the team, doesn't it? Then everyone's on edge and no one's happy. And actually you're doing everybody a disservice by not having that conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I also think that if you are having a restructure, and let's just say that you might have 3 or 4 people that need to go, my advice is to announce to everyone, hey, we are going to be doing a restructure. we're working on it this week. We will be announcing it next week. And you tell everyone on the one day, so everyone can come in. Everyone will be nervous. They know that that announcement's been made and those people have been told, as opposed to it being one a month. People crave security, and so you want to be able to give them as much as you can, and and to treat them like human beings. But we have people that have left here for career progression, have come back. We spend a lot of time talking to people about what they would like out of their careers, and if we can't give it to them here, we fully support the journey of them saying, do you know what, how much more have we got with you? Maybe another year. Great, let's be honest about it, because we can then work with them to say, we understand that, you'll be coming up or you're getting bored in this role and we mightn't have anything. And we have one of our star performers that went off and worked somewhere else for 3 years and came back. So I would like to think that there's no one that's ever worked at Carmen's that I wouldn't cross the street to go up to and say hi. And there's plenty of people that I've had to, let go of in my career. And I've always tried to hopefully do it with dignity and to do it that we would, often you end up having a cuddle at the end of that and saying, hey, I know this is not ideal, but this doesn't mean that, I'm not here for you and that I'm not here to try and help you, in your journey forward.
If you think about someone maybe that's in your team and you think, well, maybe they're starting to not perform so well.
Yes.
How do you make the distinction that this is a development thing that I could maybe put them on a course or grow, or go, oh, maybe I think the time is up and it's either a different role or an exit? Is there a way, anything you do?
So I think the first bit, remember that you want to have tried to weed that out in the first 6 months.
Yes.
So you really want to have put that effort then into the probation period. The next bit is to be really open. So we would say, this is what we want you to achieve. We're worried about you in this role, or we're going to adjust the role. This is what we want to achieve in the next 12 weeks. We document that. And then we say, right, you would have done this, this, and this. And so that they have a period of time that they know what they're trying to achieve in that period. I think the problem too is for some people, they're just in the wrong role for their skill set.
Yeah. And
that's an awful place to be. Arriving at work and thinking, oh my gosh, it's very hard for me to do a really good job. So you might have people who are creative and a bit disorganized, and they're in a role that needs them to be highly organized. And that is awful. And I think, the more that you can actually go through any sort of psych testing early on, when you're at school, about what career might be a good career for you, what would you enjoy doing every day, and to try and get yourself in a role where you think this is actually something where I think it just feels so good to know when you're good at your job. And I'm sure there's been plenty of times where we've all been in a situation where we go, hey, I'm actually really good at this, or oh my gosh, I'm terrible. So for example, I do a lot of public speaking. You can put me on a stage in front of 1,000 people. My heart rate wouldn't even go up 10 beats. I've spoken so many times. I can tell you my story inside out. For some people to talk in front of 1,000 people, it will kill them. However, when I've had to be on live TV and I've hosted, like a morning show or something, and it could be anything that comes in and I've got to talk about it, I am hopeless. I know I'm hopeless because I'm not across current affairs as much. I'm not able to, that's not my breadth, and I feel nervous, and I just know that I'm not great at it. And so knowing when and if that was something that I needed, it was going to be what I needed as a career progression, let's just say, knowing whether there's a chance that you can get good at it, or whether this is going to be so uncomfortable for you that really why you're pushing yourself to try and be that, square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's the technical and tactical requirements of the job at the right time, right personality and psychological profile, and trying to match all that up to make sure someone's actually loving their job. Because
And that's what you want.
everyone,
You want people to be able to love their job, and there's parts of you that you cannot change innately. And there's lots of testing that you can do to be able to say, are you a strategic thinker? Are you, a detail-orientated person? And then you want a leadership team. You want a business full of all sorts of people with all sorts of skill sets. But if you end up being the wrong person in the wrong role, so if you are really shy and you then get put in a role where you've got to be cold calling people and being a salesperson, whatever, every day will take forever and it will be such a drag for you. Whereas, for some people, that's not a problem and they love it. And they've got no issue going out and cold calling and facing people, in a sales position. So I think it is being really honest with yourself. And often people, some people love managing people, other people can't stand it. And then the other part to this is rock stars and superstars. So you can be a rock star. So we have people here who are extremely good at their job, but have been doing the same job for a long time, and they have no career aspiration to work up the rank at all. And they're brilliant and they're rock stars and we love them, and they might win one of the Love Awards or we have superstars, and we have people that come in and very quickly have career progression, and we can see that they are going to absolutely, be a superstar and have a much more senior role in a short amount of time. Neither one of those is a better outcome. You have to respect both of them. Don't just focus on your superstars. Do respect your rock stars. It's completely fine to be a rock star, but just give each person what they need. If you treat a superstar and hold them in a position and treat them like a rock star, and you're not going to talk about career progression, you're not going to have them for very long because they'll go and progress into a different organisation.
If we call superstar, sometimes we call them thoroughbreds.
Yeah.
So the thing about thoroughbreds is they need to be run. They need to be worked, because if you don't work them, they'll kick and they'll nip and they'll be nuts.
Yeah, so, love it.
But the challenge that you face, I'm sure you've seen this, is you put a bunch of thoroughbreds in a room, and a lot of the time they just want to race each other. And so you get the competitive, competitive spirit. And so it's about channeling that and giving them a great way to get that energy out in a positive way. Help them understand, hey, you're a thoroughbred. We love that about you. But just make sure you don't trample on the pasture horses and the draft horses and the Arabians of the room, because they're just as important as you are. We both, by the sound of it, have listened to a lot of Jim Collins. Yes. And I just wanted to pick up on something you just said there, because I was listening to a podcast with him recently. He doesn't do them very often, but it was a great one with Tim Ferriss a few years ago. And he was talking about that innate ability that you were talking about there. And I loved his description of this. So Jim Collins was a mathematician, Princeton mathematics. And all the way through school, he was an absolute genius at maths. And so he was like, hey, I'm a mathematician, right? That's his innate thing, right? And he got to Princeton, and I think he was doing pure maths. And first term he went, oh, my God, I'm not a mathematician. These guys are mathematicians. Right? What am I? And it actually took him quite some time to work it out, and that he's really a data researcher kind of guy. And then he uses all that data to come up with really amazing insights. But pure maths, he just was, just not the same kind of character, not that innate ability. I just love that thing, because you can actually be so close to it. Like, the kind of example I was trying to think about is, hey, you might be a brilliant marketer, but maybe not for a business that's super well established, it's got great market presence and a beautiful brand. Maybe you're a marketer that's brilliant for a small medium, and you're like a triangle peg in a rectangle hole. You're close but not quite. And
I think that knowing what you're good at. So I spend the majority of my time, my superpower is in working on products that will be commercially successful. What do people want to eat? And often I can work with developers and they'll come up with some amazing flavour. And I'll say that the reality is, the insight is, people say, who am I shopping for and do I think they'll like it?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they often come back to golden oat or honey and vanilla or something that's safer because they think, oh, I don't want to spend the $7 on the, raspberry and coconut because what if they don't like it and I'm stuck with the whole pack? And so being able to help have innovation, but also be commercially successful. So that I know is the space that I work in. When it comes to overall marketing, that's so data driven these days of, have you increased your penetration? Have you, what sort of reach has that campaign had, so I sit in that and appreciate it, but that is a different skill set than where I think my absolute sort of superpower is.
Yeah. Funnily enough, there's only about 2 or 3 products I consume every single day and have for a long, long time. And one is Carmen's muesli. I've got one and I generally don't stray from it.
So most people will eat anything for dinner and different things for lunch, but they like to wake up and have the same thing every morning because we want to wake up and fresh start.
Yep.
And so, yes.
And my Carmen's muesli.
Yeah.
Well, that's my day and I'm off and running, yeah.
Yes, I'm going to guess you're an original recipe consumer.
The fruit and nut.
Oh, fruit and nut. Okay, yeah, toasted. So I was almost there, but
it's not
classic with the red box.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
go. Yeah. Hey, let's talk a bit about a really important topic that thankfully is being spoken a lot more about now, and that is the impact of menopause in the workplace.
Sure.
And I had a wonderful guest on the podcast, lady called Kath Blackham from Versa, about maybe 6 months, a year ago. And she was talking about how a full 1/4 of our workforce is either going through menopause or postmenopausal. So this is critical, like 25% of our workforce. And we're just uneducated, not across it. What is the impact and how do we learn about it and approach this in a really caring and productive kind of way?
So I think there's 2 periods of time that women go through that we need to really be aware of. And if we think back to, when my mum had me, you weren't allowed. In fact, when my mum got married, you weren't allowed to work when you're married. And I'm 50 years old, so she was in Melbourne. So we're talking about the progression in a short amount of time of what's happened to women in the workforce. So there was a major problem about women once they had children. And a lot of workplaces, and I have to say that is something I'm very proud of at Carmen's, that we've got very good at being able to say, go off, have your children, we will keep you informed, you're welcome to come back to social events, and when you're ready, we will bring you back, part-time. When you're ready, you can come back full-time if you'd like, and transitioning women, and also very much so for men too, paternity leave, and, I feel like we've really come in an enormous way in being able to help women have their babies and help enter back into the workforce. And you're also seeing such a push now about women in CEO positions, women sitting on boards. And I feel that part of the conversation has been alive and super strong, certainly in the last 5 years. To me, it feels we're only now starting to talk about menopause. And the issue with menopause, it is absolutely debilitating for a lot of women. And I can give you a personal example of mine that a couple of months ago, I was at home, I was having a hot flush, and for me, I would vomit when this happens. So I ran outside and I was vomiting, and I'm dressed ready to go to work, and my gardeners were in the garden. And I said to them, oh, sorry, it's just menopause. And off I went to work, and I rang my mum, who's 80, driving to work, and I said, oh, Mum, it was so embarrassing. I was vomiting in front of the gardeners. And she said, oh, I just hope you didn't tell them it was menopause. I hope you told them it was food poisoning. And I said, no, Mum, I told them I'm going through menopause and I let myself overheat. I hadn't run outside quickly enough, and this is what had happened. She said, why did you have to let them know? I said, what is it about your generation that this was so taboo? This was something that you couldn't talk about, that we had no idea that this was going to be something that we were dealing with. And I think now a lot of it, and I've met some very interesting people in human resources who are specialising in how they can support a workforce, workforce of women who are entering into menopause, who can help explain to them or have people come in about, it's very difficult to, know what to do. I think there's information, there's medication, and there's acceptance of when things are really tough. I mean, it is impossible. Like, if you want to get into a menopause specialist, they're absolutely impossible to get an appointment. So you have people who are absolutely struggling. A lot of people are having, are often giving up their jobs. And this is so massive. And as you said, so many women going through it. And it's like, just another, thing that, we're having to deal with. So I feel like it's got to enter the level of conversation. We need way more information. We need GPs to know what's going on. I know that my journey has been tough, and it's bloody awful. And I'm lucky to have the means to try and get to the right specialists and try and see the right people. And once you get everything aligned, it's fantastic. I'm great now. But it's something that, to me, is something, that we actually need to really care about women at this point in their lives too, and how we can support them.
And obviously for us men, we're just on the outside having no idea really what can often women can be going through. So finding a way to support them without prying or getting involved in someone's personal matters, that's a real sort of a trick.
Yes.
Can you sort of help us male leaders look at any?
Yeah.
How do we support without being invasive?
Yeah. So I mean, I think that it can be part of I think there's two parts to this, that we have so many policies around having children, and so personal leave, and when you need to have time off, carers leave. However, when it comes, and lots of information sessions and lots of ways that we can support you. So firstly, and look, I am no expert on this, but I'm just knowing from my personal experience that it feels, it's something that I've just been living through, going, okay, we've got to have a better system. So I think we need to be putting it into our induction, into our company policies, that, if there's time taken off when we're doing the seminars. Like, we are often doing seminars on mental health, for example, at Carmen's, but we've never once run a seminar yet on menopause. When does it hit? Yep. I remember I was at a quite a big sort of important lunch the other day, and there was a girl there, and she was 45, and she was on the other side of the table, and I could tell she was sort of sweating at this lunch, and she was quite a well-known influencer. And at the end of the lunch, I pulled her aside and I said, can I just say something to you? I said, I think you're in the midst of menopause. And she said to me, oh my God, is that what it is? I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea. Thank you so much. Because no one's talking about it, and because she was a bit younger. And so being able to actually, when we're talking about mental health and are you okay days and things, we need to be able to have days where we say this could hit at any point. This is, roughly, look, gosh, I'm certainly not an expert of all the different things that could be said, but I do know there's a lot of big companies who are now investing a lot of resources in being able to support women in this phase of their life.
Yeah, wow. Look, hopefully we can keep having this conversation and making it not such a taboo subject. I mean, this is a normal part of life for half the population. So come on, let's just try and find a way to support our women through this. Righto, Chiefs. More from Carolyn in a minute. Now, recently we continued our Best Of series by featuring America's #1 LinkedIn coach, Ted Prodromou. We spoke about perception, connecting properly with purpose, and standing out online. Here's what Ted had to say about consistent and constant presence.
One of my wife's coworkers, her husband came up to her and said, wow, Ted is all over the internet, man. He is just crushing it. And I'm just laughing because it's, I wrote 20% of the content I'm sharing and 80% I'm sharing other people's. I've got it all automated through a program called Sendable.
There you go.
Something content out there with my name associated with it. So even if I share an article from Forbes magazine, people perceive me with Forbes magazine because they see my name with Forbes. So it's all perception. Subconsciously, they're thinking, oh, wow, he must be really famous. They really know what he's doing.
You can listen to that brilliant chat with Ted Prodromou by going to chiefmaker.com/340. Righto, Chief, let's get back to our CEO Masterclass with Carolyn Creswell of Carmen's Kitchen.
I've just got a couple of questions on professional excellence and then rapid fire questions to finish off. You're so curious, you still love learning. What do you do? How do you learn? What's your preferred method? And is there any go-to books, podcasts, audio? Or how do you do that?
Yeah, sure. So I do a variety of things. I think sometimes a bit of face-to-face learning is fantastic. So, for example, this week there's a Harvard professor out. I love any learnings from Harvard because they do case study learning, which I find super duper interesting. So I will, once or twice a year, we'll do that. So I use Audible and I'm audiobooking business books and we'll have that on the go. So at the moment I'm listening to The Diary of a CEO, which I'm loving. And then podcasts, a variety. I've already just written down your Tim Ferriss, speaking with Jim Collins. I listen to a variety of different ones. I'm trying to think of what's current go-tos. I mean, I can jump around a lot. I like the Fin Review. And so it sort of also depends on who I'm into. I'm quite into health and wellbeing. And so I sort of lean a little bit more towards audiobooks for the full content and podcasts, maybe Huberman as well. As opposed to, I subscribe to a few of the places where you get the little short summary books, but I've found that I'm not probably getting the takeaways, unfortunately, as strongly as I am if I listen to the whole book.
Yeah, like the exec book summaries.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the ones. Yeah, I've had mixed success with those, and I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good little summary. Other times I'm like, did I miss something? I don't know. Yeah, Huberman. I tend to look based on topic now. I used to be really like, this was my podcast. And now I'm like, I'm not so sure. I'll take it or leave it.
Yes.
Nice.
And I'll jump around from, I really like The Daily because I think the journalists from the New York Times are unbelievable. So I've been listening to a lot of AI stuff. So there's The Daily, and then I'll jump to Imperfects. I think Imperfects is really good to kind of remind you how tough things can be for people and just keep you human. So, yeah, but I've always got, and if I, headphones and walk in the park or cooking dinner and, and a bit of learning, you can always incorporate it into your day.
Yeah. Okay, let's get some rapid fire short questions so you can be done. Well, less than 9 minutes for your big call at 12:30. Okay, if you could form the ultimate executive team, can't be anyone on your current team, I'm afraid, sorry, from any well-known leader from any time in history, who would be your first three picks?
Oh my gosh, and remember, I've done no prep for this.
That's what's nice about this.
Yes, I know what. I'm going to put Michelle Obama on there because I just think she's awesome, and I think she would be amazing, amazing to work with. I am, you got to put Warren Buffett on there because whatever that man seems to touch turns to gold. I would not put, even though I love watching what he does and I think it's absolutely groundbreaking, I don't really want to work with Elon Musk. So I think he would be too tricky. And who else? Look, he had a bad run at the end, unfortunately, in the media, but I do have a massive corporate crush on Brad Branducci, who was the CEO of Woolworths and I think was extraordinary. So a few, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? That'd be an eclectic bunch.
Okay, what is the best advice a mentor has ever given you?
Tell the truth. Just tell the truth.
Painting.
And painting. It just brings you back to
the background. That is so good. What is your number one interview question when looking for senior execs to join your team?
It's, why does this role appeal to you? Because what I don't want people to do is come here because I've just always wanted to work for Carmen's and I've heard it's super fun to work there and I've watched your career. To me, it's like, oh, no, it's not. You've actually got to go. I really think I could make a difference in this role. I really actually think this role sounds super interesting. It would be challenging for me and I would love to do this job. It's very different about doing this job. Yes, doing this job versus working in this organisation are two very different things. So that's something that that can be a make or break for me.
Yeah, and I love you explained why that question and what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Can you nominate another CEO you hold with great respect you think should be on the Inner Chief?
Oh, I think Brad Banducci is extraordinary. And I think I've actually not seen anyone as just extraordinary in the decisions, the clarity, how people loved working for him. Yeah, so I think people would have a lot to learn from him.
Okay, 2 questions to go. If you could lead any company in the world, cannot be Carmen's on your own, so what would it be? CEO, chair of any company in the planet?
You know what? I know this is going to sound so weird, but I'm really interested. I'm really interested in places like WeWork and in this new way of working in these social enterprises. So, potentially a combination of either that or Soho House, where you are creating this new kind of interaction where it's not just a hotel or it's not just a working space. We are connecting human beings. And the decisions that you make around that, I think, would be really fascinating. Watching how that all worked, I think would be I would get a lot of pleasure out of.
I've thought a lot about that, and having worked a bit in elite sport, I remember going into the high performance units of like elite rugby or elite AFL or something, and going, "This is a really interesting workplace. It's completely different to corporate." And I thought, well, does the future of a workplace look more like a high performance unit and less like a building with desks and pods? And I hope it does, because then only people would go to work, right?
Yes.
Anyway, bit of a divergence. Okay, final question. What is your final message of wisdom and hope for chiefs around the world?
I honestly think that what it really comes back to is your personal happiness and your personal sense of purpose and enjoyment of your life. And money does not solve that. And I've met lots of wealthy people who are quite unhappy, but what happens within your 4 walls at home and the laughter that you have with your family and your the connection that you have with your children, if you have them, with your friends, with the people around you, looking at all the facets of your life and saying, I feel I've lived a rich and full life. To me, making sure that you are making that happen. That is not something that happens by accident, and you have to curate that and control that. And if at the end of the day that you can lie back and, what do they all talk about, planning your own eulogy and saying, wow, that was one hell of a ride.
Yeah, fantastic. Carolyn, look, it's just been amazing, and thank you for sharing your time, your stories, your strategies, your wisdom. You've left a great legacy through Carmen, so thank you again.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.
Righto, Chief. That sums it up for this week. What a remarkable woman is Carolyn Creswell. Something that really came across for me is her commitment to truth and finding out the best way forward, regardless at times of how we might feel about something or an emotional connection. She seems to strive for finding the best way forward. And sometimes that means a hard conversation or a different path, but she appears to be really leaning into that and being quite fearless about having those conversations as fast as possible. This is a fantastic and important trait, one that we do see come across regularly in our chiefs. So, Chief, all the links and resources can be found at chiefmaker.com/346. And if you'd like to stay in touch with Chiefmaker, just go to chiefmaker.com/subscribe. Now, Chief, if you're yet to rate the episode and subscribe, I hope you'll do so soon. It helps others see the magnificent value that the chiefs and gurus on the show bring to their life and career. So make sure you hit subscribe on your podcast app now, give it a 5-star rating if you think it's worthy, and leave a short review about your favourite episode. Righto, Chief, as always, remember to stay epic.